Homebuyers are blindsided by something terrible happening in Raleigh. Right now in Raleigh, there are some things that are completely blindsiding homebuyers. I'm talking mistakes that could cost thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, and you don't want to be in the pool of the buyers who get stuck with these homes. But don't panic. In this video, I'm breaking down the 6 most terrible issues blindsiding Raleigh homebuyers right now, and I'll give you an exact way to protect yourself from every single one. So if you are buying a home or considering buying a home in the Raleigh area, this video is a must for you. And remember, I help my clients navigate these issues every day. Send me a message. My info's below. Hey everyone, I'm Ali Buscemi, and I've been guiding families through Raleigh's real estate market for a long time. I've also been helping them avoid these catches that I'm about to share with you. Issue number 1, new construction competition can make resale homes almost impossible to sell. This is an issue that happens a lot in Raleigh. We have a lot of new construction coming to the market, and that's great, but it does have some pitfalls. Raleigh's new construction boom can create a bit of a nightmare for people who need to sell quickly. In 2024, over 19,000 new construction homes were listed in Wake County. That is a 15% increase from 2023. It's enticing to buy new construction. It's enticing to be the first person in the door. I get the appeal, and often they have great incentives, $15,000 in closing costs or credits to the design center. I totally understand the appeal, but we have to be aware of the pitfalls. In our little satellite towns like Clayton, Zebulon, Fuquay Varina, 48 to 55% of listings are new construction, and builders spend heavily on marketing, buying down interest rates, and other promotions to attract people to these homes. The median home price in Raleigh is approaching $500K. If you're trying to sell a 4-year-old home in the same neighborhood as new construction, then you are competing for a very similar product. And a lot of people are going to opt to choose their own finishes and customize it to their liking. If you're planning to move within the next 3 to 5 years and Raleigh is just a pit stop on your journey, new construction is not the move for you, especially if that neighborhood is in phase 1. If it's a neighborhood that's close to completion, then that can make some sense. Or if you say, Ali, I don't care. I want what I want. We'll deal with that later. That's up to you. But I always want you to know the risks. If you are competing in an area saturated with new construction, it can leave you underwater in your sale. Appreciation with new construction takes more time because you pay a premium to be the first person in that house. This next issue could completely change the character of your neighborhood without any warning at all, and that is road widening and highway expansion. It can transform quiet neighborhoods. This one's hard because a lot of buyers really don't have an idea, and it takes a concerted effort for me as a professional to stay on top of construction plans, and to be frank, a lot of agents don't bother. You do not want your backyard to be backed up to a 2-way street that I know is being talked about to expand to 4. They're going to take some of your property with eminent domain. They could even take the whole property. They will give you market value for this, but you can understand how upsetting that is to be forced to move out of your home, or all of a sudden your marketability, your sales price, your value plummets because now there's a really busy road behind you. 440 is widening from 4 to 6 lanes, going to be completed by 2025. Capitol Boulevard, they always talk about converting from a 6-lane highway to a controlled access highway with tolls. 540 extension is being completed. There's 14.7 miles of noise walls that are going to go up. Now, being close to a new highway that's going to connect the city can help your home value, right? Because now you are that much more commutable, but you want it a mile or 2 away. You don't want it in your backyard. Blue Ridge Road as expansion is 2 years behind schedule. They talk about widening Creedmoor Road. They talk about widening Highway 98. And it doesn't even matter to me if these projects have the green light. If there's chatter about them, that's enough for you to be aware that you do not want your property backing up to these roads. So properties on these 2-lane roads that are the major thoroughfares, especially through North Raleigh, they could easily become 4-lane highways with frontage roads. And that quiet street you fell in love with could become really noisy in 5 to 10 years, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about your sunken property value. So hold that thought. I'm going to circle back to this in a second. Even if you find the perfect house in a perfect location, this third issue is very real here because we are a rapidly appreciating market. Issue 3, low appraisals in a fast-moving market. Raleigh is quickly growing. Home values are appreciating way past the national average, and that is great for a homeowner. Most Most people really appreciate these benefits when it comes time to sell. However, if you are a buyer and you are putting down substantially over ask, especially, then you are at risk for what we call an appraisal gap. A bank is only going to loan on the appraised value of a home, and sometimes the appraised value is not the same as the market value. From my point of view, the market value is what people are willing to pay for your property. If I have 6 offers for all around the same ballpark, but the appraisal says it's down here, who are they to say what it's worth if this whole buyer pool says it's worth more? Obviously, that's the realtor's point of view. The bank's point of view is much more conservative, right? Because they are trying to assure that their loan and their investment, their debt in your property is worthwhile to them. Home prices have gone up 6% year over year. Appraisers are looking backwards at closed comps. They're not necessarily looking at what I'm calling the market value. They are looking with conservative rear view mirror at these comps. So in a rapidly appreciating market, that can lead to appraisal gaps. There are options when the gap happens. And this is always something I'm going to counsel about if I think a house is at risk of having this gap. You can always bring the extra cash to make the difference. If you really want to hit like whatever your down payment percentage is, you can bring some more cash, so you're still hitting that percentage. Most people just cut a different deal with their lender. So the LTV loan to value ratio changes a little bit. So you're borrowing a little more, but you're not actually bringing more cash to the table, if that makes sense. And that can be, to me, the best option, especially if you're planning to put down a really big down payment, like 20% or more, then you have room to deal with that. But where this can get scary is if you're on a 100% financing VA loan or you have an FHA loan, you're only putting down 3.5% and you don't have the cash for that gap, then the home needs to appraise because you're only going to be able to pay the appraised sales price. You can also go to the sellers and try to renegotiate the price. However, there's nothing in our sales contract that obligates them to meet the appraised price. This is really a buyer problem. If they think the buyer might back out, then they might be gracious enough to adjust that sales price to help you, or they could just say, thanks for that due diligence fee, we're going to go back to the market. So sellers very rarely agree to adjust price in Wake County because they're not contractually obligated to do it. I would never have someone bank on the seller changing a contract sales price. Gaps can be kind of sizable, and this can happen in new construction too. If you're building a custom new construction house and you're throwing every single bell and whistle into that home, you are probably racking up that custom bill. And the appraisal, they don't see value in how expensive that lighting package is versus how expensive that lighting package is. Things like that aren't going to affect the appraisal, but they sure can affect your bill at the design center. So be careful not to overbuild your house. This is something I counsel people a lot in the design center. Now, some of my clients say, Allie, I do not care. I want what I want and I'm going to pay for it. And that's fine. If you have awareness that this is a potential issue, then I've done my job. It is still your decision if you want to give your house every single bell and whistle and you do not care about an appraisal gap. That is fine too. I just still want to get ahead of this and let my clients know from the get-go that this is a potential issue. So you might think you're putting 20% down, but if there's a $15,000 appraisal gap, now you have to adjust the percent that you're putting down, right? So maybe you're losing a couple percent. Maybe you're not getting the same interest rate now that down payment afforded you. So there are impacts. It is very rarely a deal breaker for people. I will say that this is most concerning an issue for VA loans and FHA loans. If you have a healthy down payment, we're being strategic about our offer price, then this is something we can navigate and you can cut out a deal with your lender to make it still work for you. But it's just something to have in the back of your head, especially if you're going way over ask. There are ways to avoid this. I talked about some, I'll talk about more in a minute, but all of these things are a little more impactful because of the unique way North Carolina does real estate. So this next system sometimes takes the color out of my clients' faces when I first explain it to them, especially if they're coming from a state with all these lovely contingencies that have to be lifted. Our state does not have contingencies built into our 2T sales contract. We are an as-is state. We are a caveat emptor, buyer beware state. So there is no, oh, you couldn't get your mortgage, here's your deposit back. Oh, you couldn't sell your house you needed to sell, here's your deposit back. It does not work like that. We have a non-refundable deposit called a due diligence fee. This is going into basically every offer written in Wake County. It is, you can think of it similar to earnest money in the sense that it is a deposit that's going to show up as a credit on your closing statement. So it's not an additional fee. However, it does need to be liquid and it is going straight to the seller, non-refundable, pre-inspection. You are literally writing a check or sending a wire to a seller. It's not held in escrow. It is going straight to them, and for all intents and purposes, it's their money to spend right then and there. That deposit is non-refundable. So the next question is typically, how much is this due diligence fee? And it really is a case-by-case basis, and it's always up to you. This is your money. I'm going to give my advice as to what's appropriate, what's competitive, what we think we can get away with. But at the end of the day, it's up to you and it's negotiable. So we can try one thing and the seller might ask for more and we'll work it out there. But when it comes to a norm, it's really hard to put an exact number on it. Some people would say 1%. However, if a home has been on the market 60 days and I know it has no other offers, then we're going to keep that number lower and more nominal. So on $1 million home, I'd say you'd probably expect to put up at least $10,000. This number, some people choose to put it more if they know there's multiple offers, because it becomes a way for you to compete separate from sales price. But you're competing with your leverage, right? Because the bigger that number is, the less leverage you have in the repair negotiation process, because the seller knows the person that just handed them $30,000 non-refundable dollars is very unlikely to walk away. These numbers get out of hand the hotter our market gets. I have, as a list agent, received $50,000 due diligence checks. I'm never going to counsel my clients to give a $50,000 due diligence check, but again, it's your decision. If you say, Allie, we love this house, we have to have it, we don't care, it's in great condition, let's win the deal and put down that due diligence fee, then I'm going to respect your wishes in the end, but I'm always going to remind you in writing and verbally in graphics a million times that this fee is non-refundable. The next question is typically, okay, so if the fee is non-refundable, what happens if we do our inspections and there's a terrible issue? Can I get it back if there's a foundation issue? Can I get back if there's a mold issue? No. However, the seller still has a lot of reason to work with you and to give you a repair credit or to do repairs on major issues. Because if you terminate the contract over something that happened in the inspection, now that seller has to go back on the market. They have to disclose all of the issues. Agents are going to be asking for the old inspection report. Going back on the market after a failed contract is already a little bit of a scarlet letter. You know, people wonder what's wrong with the home. And now if we have to tell people what's really wrong with the home, because we've come to learn throughout the due diligence process all of these issues the buyer found, now the seller has to share them with the whole MLS. They will never get anywhere near that original sales price. So they do have motivation to work with you to find a solution to keep things moving towards close. Most sellers do give some form of repair credit. So remember, this fee is non-refundable. However, the seller does still have motivation to work with you on a solution. There's nothing in our contract that requires a seller to give you a repair credit or to do repairs. Nothing. They are doing it for their own sake so that they don't have to go back on the market and disclose all these issues you just found. Now, of course, we hope for an inspection report that just says, run-of-the-mill age of home issues. If it is just tiny little issues, the seller might not be willing to give you a credit for that because they know you're not going to walk away from your deposit over, $1,500 of work. However, if there are major issues, the seller is going to want to work with you, assuming they're reasonable, which, as we know, some people are not. But most sellers are very eager to work with you on more serious issues, find a solution, and get you to the closing table. But at the end of the day, sometimes a buyer does decide to terminate and forfeit that due diligence fee. That can make sense. And I have helped clients get out of contracts sometimes too. It's always a sad and frustrating day, but if that's what makes sense for your bigger picture, I'll still be there for you. Speaking of losing money though, this next problem has already cost hundreds of North Carolina residents their entire properties. In North Carolina, the HOA has the power of foreclosure. It's really, North Carolina have unusually broad foreclosure powers. They can file for foreclosure, they can put a lien on your property. And they're not afraid to use them. You need to pay your HOA fees. That is the bottom line. Pay those fees because truly they can put a cloud on your title when it comes to sell and force you into foreclosure. More than 5,500 HOA foreclosure actions have been filed since 2018. Over 600 homeowners in North Carolina have lost their properties to HOA foreclosures. 45% of these closures occurred in Mecklenburg County, which is in Charlotte, but it happens here in Raleigh as well. HOAs can foreclose for debts consisting only of fines. You know, if you get in stubborn over the $20 fine and the stump in your front yard, they could file a foreclosure on your property. Investigate your HOA, investigate the rules, agree to play by them, and pay those fees. Just late fees could be $20 a month or 10% of unpaid assessments. There's interest on these fees up to 18% annually for overdue fees. They can hit you with attorney fees and court costs, and they can file a lien after just 30 days delinquency. Now, some people just say no HOA, no HOA, but there are benefits to an HOA neighborhood. I have shown homes where I see the photos and they look great and the property is appropriately priced. And we're like, why is this house not selling? And then we get to the property and next door is a total junkyard. If there's no HOA, there's no one to protect you from that situation, and your neighbor can absolutely sink your property value. So there are pros and cons. I love our HOA. I get to use our beautiful pool and we pay a very low fee every month. That's way better than a pool in the backyard for my little family with young kids. But you just need to be aware that HOAs are powerful here, and it's not just an emotional power trip. They can literally foreclose on your house. Now, North Carolina is in a super lien state. HOA liens do have priority over other hurdles, except existing mortgages and tax liens. The tax man always gets paid first. So yeah, I know it sounds wild, but the HOA can force the sale of your home to collect a $50 fee. We're talking about situations where, a couple $100 in unpaid fees can snowball into losing your property. So do not put yourself in this position. Know the HOA rules in advance and pay those fees. Even if you avoid all these financial traps, this next issue can be pretty annoying and just affect your daily quality of life. And that is high congestion areas with limited expansion options. Before I tell you how to protect yourself from these, let me tell you about this. So despite Raleigh ranking only number 228 globally for congestion, local residents are losing time to traffic. I will say that if you're coming from a city with like legendary traffic, LA, New York, Atlanta, then Raleigh traffic is not going to register for you. It's not going to seem like a big deal. But if you are from a small town or if you're a Raleigh local, then you are feeling the traffic as more and more people move to our city, and some of these roads just don't have the space to expand. Local residents lost an average of 31 hours to traffic in 2024, and that's a 20% increase from 2023. The average commute time is around 23.6 minutes specifically. To me, that's not bad, because when I lived in New York 8 years ago, I had a monster commute. So 23 minutes in my car with my music on, no big deal. But it's about your priorities and your tolerance for traffic and congestion. There are some areas that are kind of notorious for this. Capitol Boulevard can be quite problematic. Feels like it's always under construction. It's 6 lanes. They always talk about converting it to a highway with tolls, and I'm sure that transition would be painful. And Capitol Boulevard really comes into play if you live in Wake Forest and you work downtown Raleigh. And that doesn't mean that it's not an option for you, but I just want you to be aware of it before you buy the house. Falls of Neuse is also kind of legendary for traffic, seems to be always under construction. Blue Ridge Road, Wade Avenue, the area directly around North Hills, all areas that people are complaining about congestion. Now, that's not to say that it can't be worth it for you to live there, but you just need to be aware and accept what's happening. School drop-off zones in high-density areas could also be really intense, that like 3 p.m. hour when cars are all doing the lineup and there's not a big enough school parking lot to accommodate. It can kind of like shut down blocks. Impacts in daily life. So morning rush can extend your travel time, of course. It can double it in some areas. The hot zones for this are going to and from RTP or going to and from downtown. Evening rush increases, 13 minutes per 6 miles. Many congested areas lack room for expansion, especially old neighborhoods with 2-lane roads that just can't be widened and will never be widened. A way to kind of get ahead of this is to put into Google Maps, or your Maps app on your phone, put the home you're thinking about and put your work, right? Of course, most people are checking this, but there's a little thing you can scroll where you can put it to that time of day. So put it in on rush hour. How big of a difference is that number? Can you tolerate that number? number. That's what it's all about. Another thing is new high-rise developments are going to make these issues worse. There's no growth without growing pains, right? So as these new big buildings go up in already congested areas, we can expect this problem to get worse. Now I'm going to tell you how to protect yourself from every single one of these issues, so grab a pen and paper, or if you don't want to remember, just give me a call and let me help you find your next house. Ways to avoid these pitfalls. Number one, the most important thing is to work with a great agent who has their mind on these things, not someone who's just trying to make the sale. For my business, I want you to be happy long term. I don't want you to get in your house and immediately regret it. I want you to be happy for years and years. I want you to leave me a 5-star review. I want you to send me your friends and family. I want to see you when it's time to upgrade that house. The way I do this is by doing right for my clients every step of the way. I'm not going to just fail to mention the heinous traffic of the afternoon. I'm going to say, you should drive by this at 4 p.m., 5 p.m. and see if you're okay with what's going on. I also am researching HOA covenants. I'm going to be looking into future construction projects, and I have a huge book of vendors for your inspections, specialists. If we need a certain highly qualified pair of eyes on the property you're considering, I can get that person. I want you to be happy for a long time in your house. You also need to understand due diligence, the fee itself. The due diligence fee is something I discuss at my very first consult with people. I also give an infographic that summarizes the home buying process. So if you're a visual learner and you just forgot what we talked about, then you have it right there in front of you. And it's something I'm going to make you understand every step of the way, so you're making an informed decision about the due diligence fee, the strategy behind it, the fact that it's non-refundable. Same with how our contract operates and our lack of contingencies. Sometimes people say they're going to make a contingent offer, right, because they need to sell their home. And that is just a colloquialism. It's not actually contingent in the sense that just because your home doesn't sell and you can't close, you're still not getting that due diligence fee back. So I want you to understand every point of the contract and how it operates in our state, especially if you're coming from a different state, because North Carolina just operates differently. Researching infrastructure plans is important. I go to the Midtown Alliance, the Downtown Alliance. I read the bulletin, read the Triangle Business Journal to just stay informed about changes happening in the city. So I know that this neighborhood is going to get great appreciation because the highway is going to get closer. But this part of the neighborhood is going to have the highway in the backyard, and that is a no-go. And of course, financial preparation. I'm always going to refer you to my couple amazing local lenders who can help you strategize on when to lock in a rate, what kind of monthly payment you're looking for, what are your different options for down payment and interest rate, and how can you structure your loan to be most advantageous to you long term. We also need to just look into taxes, the tax rate, insurance rate. All these things are going to be part of your mortgage payment, and we need to make sure that you are comfortable in your house and not, as we call, house poor, where all your money is going towards just your living situation. I always want my clients to know about the HOA and what the covenants are, what power they have, what rules you're going to need to abide by. You need to be 100% okay with that because HOAs are very powerful in North Carolina and can literally foreclose on your property. And new construction. New construction is so appealing. Everyone loves to be the first person in a home. I understand that. But if you are not going to be in our area for very long, then this is not a good option for you, in my opinion. And I just want to talk you through pros and cons. You know, maybe we can get new construction where it's the last home or some of the last homes are being completed versus if you're in phase 1 of a new construction neighborhood, you are going to be living in a construction zone for years. And that gets annoying. And based on the amount of nails I've had go through my tires, it can get expensive to be living in a construction zone. We also want to look at what developments are coming to the area, what's planned for the area, because some new, let's say like retail and shopping and dining, if that's coming close by, that's going to be a big boon for your property. But if all these competing neighborhoods are about to pop up in the next couple of years, then maybe that's not going to work for you unless you really plan to be here long term. So we've seen how Raleigh's explosive growth can create opportunities, but can also create some growing pains. Are these issues deal breakers? Absolutely not, but I just want you to be aware of them, and I'm going to point them out property to property, just so when you're making your decision, you're making it with total awareness, full picture, the good, the bad, the ugly that comes with this property. As I told you, you can definitely prepare yourself. We can be aware of these potential issues, and truly, I know I have a dog in this fight, but the most important thing you can do is work with an excellent agent, someone who's not just gonna gloss over all these cons to get you to the closing table. I always want my clients to be happy long-term, and I have told people homes that they love are a no-go in my opinion, because I know that road's being expanded, because I know it's early in the phase. I will treat you like family and tell you not to buy the house if I know in my professional expertise that it's going to be a bad decision for you. So if you're considering a move to Raleigh, do not go at it alone. I am here for you. All my information is below. I love what I do. I love helping families make great decisions and fall in love with this area like I have and be happy with their move long term. So if that's you considering a move to this area, reach out to me. All my info is below. I am here to serve. And if you want to know which Raleigh neighborhoods are actually worth your time and money, check out my video where I rank the best and worst suburbs around Raleigh. Some of these might surprise you. So thanks for watching. See you at the next one.